Thank you for sharing your time with us here on SoJannelle. Happy Sunday if you're watching on Sunday on TFC. Happy Saturday if you're watching on ANC, and happy Monday if you're watching on KNET 25.1. Of course, we are available on demand on I Want TFC, and we are always on our social media platforms at SoJannelleTV. Information on the screen. This afternoon on the show, we are celebrating our kababayan in the NFL, Nikko Remigio, as he is talking to us about the Super Bowl experience. And right about now, we're going to be talking about diversity in the league. There was a time when NFL was known, or football as a sport, especially in America, was known to be a sport for black and white men. And now we see this inclusion of Asian athletes as well. Can you talk to us about that? What it was like growing up, and how difficult or easy was it seeing yourself in the league when there were no models really to look up to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that journey just, you know, I'm mixed in general, right? So I'm half Filipino, quarter black, quarter white. So, you know, I think identity was just a battle that I was juggling with in general. But, you know, I think to be in the position that I am in today, you know, to represent such a small group of individuals and represent our culture, I mean, it means the world to me, right? And like you said, there weren't necessarily very many idols that were of Asian descent in the NFL. So, you know, it's very important to me, and it's very important to me that people know, you know, who Filipinos are, what Filipinos are. You know, knowing how to pronounce my last name, you know, those are things that people often don't think about, but, you know, to myself, to my family, to our culture, it's everything, so.
All right, so let's talk about that. You mentioned the word identity, and, you know, it's a buzzword the last how many years? Identity, inclusion, diversity, and you talked about juggling it. What was it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, right? You know, it's like you're not black enough for the black kids, you're not white enough for the white kids, and, you know, are you really Filipino? Because, you know, you're Fil-Am and whatnot, right? So there's a lot of those battles that you're kind of dealing with, but I guess for me, turning it into something positive, you know, whenever I was on the football field, there is no identity as far as race goes, right? Like, are you a good football player or not? And so I feel like ever since, you know, from a very young age, I sought out comfort in that, and, you know, it's transformed into what it is today. And, you know, as my journey's gone on, you know, I've never felt more solidified in who I am and what I represent and what I want to become.
So in a way, it became your fuel. Absolutely. That drove your ambition to really do well. For some people, though, especially these days, you know, we're talking about California combating hate, people experiencing hate, bullying, racism. Have you encountered any of those? And I'm asking you because I want this out in the open. I always ask a lot of my interviewees, because for whoever's watching that may be going through it, we want first them to know that it's real. It happens to even the best of us. But then at the same time, drawing from your experiences, like what you learned from it, that maybe they can pick up on as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those were definitely, you know, I've had a number of experiences, whether it be, you know, somebody making remarks about me being Asian or being black or whatnot. But I mean, I had a great support group, fortunately, right? And I had a great, you know, just mentors around me, and, you know, I confided in my family. You know, I'm blessed to have such a great support group in my family, and who have shared those same experiences as I have. And to be quite frank, the experiences that they dealt with were 10 times the experiences that I have dealt with. You know, my Lola, my Lolo, and my dad and his sisters moved to Irvine. You know, there were no Filipinos out in Irvine. It was predominantly white. And, you know, my mom growing up in Michigan into a mixed family, you know, same sort of experience, you know. So that's how I dealt with it. You know, I feel like when people go through those experiences. It's an isolating experience, but you know, leaning on your loved ones and your support group is really how I navigated those struggles.
If you were talking to whoever's watching right now that may have experienced it or may have, you know, at the receiving end of a racial slur or experiencing bullying, what would you tell them?
To be quite frank, the person who's, you know, saying those types of remarks or bullying you or whatever it is probably going through something a lot worse than what's perceived on the surface.
I like that
right?
perspective.
And
yeah.
I think just understanding, like, you know, they're fighting demons of their own, which is making them act in such a way.
Right.
And, you know, I know it's hard, but not taking it personally, right? Like what entices somebody to act in such a way and to act in such a hateful way? Like I really just think what's going on at home for them, what's going on in their lives. And, you know, when I kind of shift my perspective to look at it like that, I seek comfort in understanding what I have around in my life and what I have going for me.
Right.
So.
And just as a reminder for those of you who may have experienced or have heard of someone who's experienced any of these, California is working very hard as a state to combat hate. There is help for those who may be going through this or may have gone through this. Information on the screen, also the number to call. If you want to call, you can report anonymously as well. But you know what, Nico? I like that perspective that you shared, but at the same time, this is why we're doing this, right? This is why we are, in a way, celebrating every Asian, every Filipino representation that we can hold on to.